Hi YouTube, my name is William Bishop. You can also find me on eToro under the username WM Bishop. I'm a value investor and a long-term investor. To me, the long term means buying and holding a company for a minimum of 3 years and often more than 5 years. Today, I'd like to talk to you about a company I bought in January called Swedish Match. I bought them on the 18th of January 2022 and I in fact sold them on the 28th of June 2022. That's a holding period of 161 days. That's less than half a year and should not be considered as a long-term investment. So clearly, something has happened after my initial purchase on the 18th of January and before the sale on the 28th of June. Let's get into that. What was the catalyst? Now, for those of you who don't know, Swedish Match, their vision is a world without cigarettes. They manufacture smoke-free products. This includes snus, moist snuff, chewing tobacco, and nicotine pouches. They're competing against existing cigarette manufacturers. These existing cigarette manufacturers are huge companies. Companies such as Philip Morris, Altria, British American Tobacco, Imperial Brands, and Japan Tobacco. Those companies, however, know that cigarettes are the past. Cigarette sales are declining year on year. So these companies, they're looking elsewhere for sales. Here's the webpage for Philip Morris International. This is their investor relations overview. And you can see quite prominently, they're trying to deliver a smoke-free future. Who are Philip Morris? Well, if you don't know the name, perhaps you know their biggest selling brand, Marlboro cigarettes. You can find them anywhere around the world. On the 11th of May, here's the share price graph for Swedish Match. On the 11th of May, Philip Morris announced an attempted takeover for Swedish Match. Here, on the 18th of January, you can see the shares traded between 71.76 Swedish krona and 73.22 Swedish krona. I bought them at 72.36 Swedish krona, and I continued to hold them throughout this period. Now, this is still the short term. May the 9th, the shares closed at 76.06 Swedish krona before the announcement, which took them to a close of 103.5 Swedish krona. That was on the 11th of May. Now, at this point, I have a few things to consider. If a bidding war emerges, then we'll be able to secure a higher price than 106. If it doesn't emerge, then the only bid is 106. So, who else might bid for Swedish Match? Well, for a start, Philip Morris has those competitors I've named earlier. However, all of them already have a presence in the US with smoke-free products. And so a takeover by any of those companies probably would not get approved on competition grounds. So that's the trade buyers out the way. The non-trade buyers include private equity funds and pension funds. Now, they're a less harmful product, but the products Swedish Match make, they're not risk-free. They're actually known as modified risk tobacco products by the FDA. Some companies will not want to get into this area because of the perceived risk. There are plenty of companies out there that you can buy. So if buying something which causes harm to consumers will tarnish your reputation, then these companies are going to avoid it. Following on from the 11th of May, until about mid-June, I was considering whether another bid will emerge, and it appears no bid will be emerging. At this point, these shares are hovering between 100 and 101 Swedish krona, so I continue to hold for that 5% uplift. Now, on the 28th of June, you can see the shares popped up to 105.5 Swedish krona and actually closed the day at 104.45 Swedish krona. This is the day where I sold at 104.55 Swedish krona. What happened on this day was Philip Morris announced their intentions and how they're going to proceed with the takeover. A tender offer started on the 29th of June, and that will run until the end of September. Here, shareholders can tender their shares, they can give up their shares for that 106 Swedish krona, which will be received on the 6th of October. Now, 7 conditions were named by Philip Morris that need to happen for this takeover to go through. One of them was it needs to be passed by the regulators. I think that will happen. I don't think there's a chance of the regulators saying no. Another condition was Philip Morris want 90% of the shares outstanding to be tendered. 36% of the shares outstanding are held by institutions. They're going to tender their shares. They want this gain that we've seen since May. However, Swedish Match is an excellent company. Its revenue over the last 4 years, from the point where they abandoned their partnership with Philip Morris, as it happens, their revenue has grown by 12% at a compound average growth rate per year. Their profits, their net income, has grown by 16% over that period because their net margins have improved. Their earnings per share has grown at more than 20% compound annual growth rate for that period. And that's higher than the revenue because of the net margin improvement, and it's higher than the net income because of the share repurchases made by Swedish Match. They're a high margin business. Gross margins are more than 66%, operating margins are around 45%. Value investors like myself bought this company with the anticipation of holding it for many years and selling at a higher price than 106. So for 90% of shares to be tendered, which is what Philip Morris wants for this deal to go through, I think that's quite a high watermark, and there is a chance that the deal will not go through. If the deal does not go through, we find ourselves with the shares falling back to around the level at May the 9th of 76 Swedish krona. So, I had the opportunity to sell at 104.55. I've foregone the gain of 1.4%, which is from 1.455 to 106, because I am avoiding a potential loss of 27 to 28%. I asked myself, would I buy Swedish Match at this point? Would I buy a company where the maximum gain I can get is 1.4%, and that's holding exchange rates where they are? A 1.4% gain and a risk of 27, 28% loss, that's not a good option for me or any investor. And so on the 28th of June, I sold. Now, if this deal does not go through, by the way, I think it will go through. If the deal does not go through and the shares do fall back to that level, then I'm likely to go and buy Swedish Match again. However, for now, I took a 40% gain and I'm out of the company. There are many other companies where I can invest, so I'm going to use that money, reinvest it elsewhere and move on. While at the same time, I'm going to be looking to see if this deal does go through. Now, everything I've talked about in this video is my opinion. I'm not a registered financial advisor. You should not take this as financial advice. You should always do your own research. And if you are unsure, you should seek the advice of a suitably qualified independent financial advisor. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel or go and follow me on eToro for more updates, where you can also copy me. Thank you for listening. Take care.